Now, something of an unusual focus for you today. We're taking you to see 18,000 skulls arranged on shelves at the Musée de l'Homme here in Paris. Now, amongst them are the skulls of 36 Algerians killed by French forces as they conquered Algeria over 150 years ago. Amongst them, rebel leaders who were shot. Now, though, 60 years after Algeria's independence, calls for them to be repatriated.
Deep in the vaults of the Musée de l'Homme in Paris, 18,000 skulls are neatly arranged on shelves.
These skulls from various collections mostly come from exploration missions that took place during the 19th century.
Of these thousands of skulls, only 500 have been identified. 36 Algerians are among them, including the rebel chief killed and decapitated by the French Expeditionary Corps in the 19th century. All of them were given to the Musée de l'Homme in 1880 by various collectors.
It's been 4 years since France returned the skulls of 24 Algerians decapitated while fighting French colonialists over 170 years ago. One of the skulls returned was that of Sheikh Moussa al-Darkawi. Sheikh Moussa was an Egyptian, a student of Sheikh Mohammed bin Hamza Dhafir al-Madani. Sheikh Moussa settled in central Algeria in 1829, just a year before the French invaded Algeria in 1830. This was the first colonization of an Arab country since the days of the Crusades. So in today's video, we will be looking at the rise and annihilation of this colonial resistance in Zaatcha that lasted more than 4 months, from the 16th July to the 26th of November 1849. The Algerian people's absolute rejection and resentment of the French colonizers. The resentment became much when taxes per palm was increased in March 1849 from 0.25 to 0.40, resulting in the widening of the complaint cycle. Sheikh Bouziane knew how to turn this resentment against the occupying forces. He engaged in active contacts with tribal and clan chiefs to prepare the necessary conditions for the declaration of jihad, such as raising funds, the purchase of weapons, the storage of supplies. This plan somehow got to the ears of the French administrative agents. Lieutenant Soroka, the Arab office's deputy, moved diligently toward Zaatcha to arrest Sheikh Bouziane. He took with him Sheikh Ibn el-Mihoub of Tolga city and some knights. However, they failed to capture him due to the firm resistance his followers showed. Soroka returned to Biskra. He presented a detailed report to the leadership stating that all residents of the Ziban oasis were wrapped around Sheikh Bouziane and that the jihad had already been announced from the minarets of the oasis. The head of the Arab Bureau, Officer de Bosque, immediately visited Zaatcha. He asked the residents to hand over Sheikh Bouziane. The resistance refused and replied, "We refuse to hand over to you what you ask, and we will fight till the very last man and woman here." Right there, de Bosque was convinced that the spirit of rebellion had already spread in the whole area. The annihilation of the colonial resistance of Zaatcha passed through 3 fundamental phases. 1. The force phase. This phase began with the arrival of the French in Zaatcha on 16th July 1849 under Colonel Carposia's command, where the siege of the oases was tightened, stifling and extinguishing the revolution in its infancy, and taking down their commander, Sheikh Bouziane. However, Sheikh Bouziane was taken aback by the resilience of the revolutionaries, who showered French forces with bullets that wiped out 31 French soldiers and wounded at least 117 more. After hours of fighting, Carposia had to withdraw his troops under the blows of the Mujahideen of Ouled Nail, Bou Sada, and Masila, who joined their brothers in Zaatcha. This victory gave moral and material support to the revolutionaries and further fueled resistance among the inhabitants of the region. Sheikh al-Marabat Sidi Abd al-Hafiz, the Romanian leader, declared jihad, and the residents of the Ziban oasis appealed for the liberation of the city of Biskra, clashing with French forces under the command of Saint-Germain, commander of the district of Biskra. There, the Battle of Seriana took place at the dawn of September 1849. Although the French commander Saint-Germain was killed, the French army managed to tighten the siege, forcing Sidi Abdel Hafiz to withdraw the remainder of his supporters. The French took advantage of this victory and insisted on retaliation against the residents of the oasis of Zaatcha and decided to postpone the matter until the beginning of autumn. General Herbien, the governor of Constantine province, personally led the siege after Colonel Carposia was appointed as Colonel Saint-Germain's successor. 2. The siege phase. General Herbien began to assemble his estimated forces of 4,493 soldiers in Koudia Almeida near the city of Zaatcha on the 7th of October 1849. He then occupied the marabout near the Kudia and controlled the crossroads leading to the oasis of Zaatcha, especially the link between Tulga and Zaatcha, to prevent the arrival of any supplies. The artillery was then ordered to bomb the fences to make a dent in them, but the deadly resistance forced the French forces to retreat after they lost 35 soldiers, including one officer and 147 wounded. The French were then able by artillery to occupy the Marabout and raise their flag on its minaret. 3. Extermination. General Herbian demanded survival from the Central Colonial Administration in Algeria. Orders were issued for military lines to move toward Zaatcha from Constantine, Batna, Bosada, Skikda, and Annaba, encouraging those trapped to return the attack on 26 November 1849, with 8,000 soldiers led by Officer Baral and Colonel Canrabar and Lafarode and Colonel Daumental, plus the military hardware, while the rest of the forces hit a stranglehold on the oasis to prevent any help coming from other areas. Orders were given to exterminate the oasis inhabitants, including children, women, and the elderly, cut down palm trees and burn down houses. Despite this, the inhabitants stood their ground and clashed with the French soldiers until the last man standing. There were many wounded. The house of Sheikh Bouziane was blown up, and he passed away there. General Herbian ordered the head of Sheikh Bouziane and his son Sheikh Musa el-Darkawi be cut and hung on one of the gates of Biskra. The Zaatcha resistance ended in heavy losses. The entire oasis was ravaged, with the French dishing out the most heinous forms of torture and shameful crimes against humanity. The French lost 10 officers of different ranks, 165 soldiers were killed, and 790 were injured. This is the story of these brave men who stood their grounds against occupation you don't get to hear. Before we end today's video, allow me to show you the beauty of Algeria, specifically the Grand our brothers and sisters in Palestine get to enjoy this freedom someday. I remain your brother Abdul. Catch you in the next one.
كله بيحكي عن كل تلميذ يطلع معه الحمد لله.
قرب
هذه اللي ثلاثة.
هاي اللي ثلاثات؟
هاي اللي ثلاثة.
أكثر من واحدة كانوا هنا.
واحدة. هي الشباب. هاي الحمد لله.